What up, everyone? DJ Nubis here with you on the Metal Time Radio podcast with a new episode of Lone Wolf with Dub. Here with my very special guest and good friend, Mr. Kevin Lambert of the Entertainment Headquarters. Thank you, sir, for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me. And can I just say, what an awesome intro.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Not quite as good as your stuff, but I try.
No, that was phenomenal. And can I just say, there was one clip that I seen from Hellboy, The Golden Army, Luke Goss, who plays Prince Nuada. He should be a bigger name right now. He's
I agree.
Phenomenal.
Like, I kept saying, like, what's fun is like, I couldn't remember his first name, right? I knew it was Goss, and then I know he was also in Blade 2 as the main vampire nest. So he's actually quite good. Like, I really like his stunt work and stuff. But yeah, I agree. He should really have more screen time and stuff like that. But I just saw that Samurai got a chance to talk to Scott Adkins, so that's really cool.
Yes,
so I think that's amazing that Samurai got that interview.
Yeah, amazing. But yeah, 100%. Great intro. Glad to be a part of this show. Thank you for inviting me, my friend.
Yeah, and if people that are watchers don't know, Mr. Lambert this month in September is doing basically a theme of samurai films. He just did Akira Kurosawa, we reviewed and talked about Akira's life and as a director in about 4 different movies. Some is Ron, also Yojimbo and stuff like that. So if you have a chance, go to his channel. We had a nice panel yesterday talking about those films and a lot of fun. But he's got a lot of stuff coming up this month with samurais and martial arts. So we're kind of keeping with that theme with Lone Wolf and Dub, as we're going to talk about Donnie Yen and the Ip Man from 2008. And what was your first impressions of when you first saw this film at the time that you saw it?
Oh, I remember when this film first came out in 2008. There was lots of people talking about it. It got a limited release in UK theaters, and I'm happy to say I was one of the ones that got to see it.
Oh wow!
Completely blown away. Obviously, it does have English dub like the one I watched, but when I seen it back in 2008 in theaters, it didn't have the English dub. It was completely subbed, and I was blown away. Cinematography, the actors, the colors, everything about this movie, just I loved it from beginning to end. And I love how the fact, yes but no, it's based on a real person and his biography in many ways, but it's also obviously exaggerated as well. And I like how throughout the course of the movie, from beginning to end, the talk about the real life events that were happening with Japan and in China and that 8-year war that happened. And so the confine this entire story within real history and fact. And that's what I really enjoy about it. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I first saw it probably not till, I'm trying to think here, maybe 2018. And by then they'd already had at least 2 of them out, or 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And like, I just remember watching, because they both were on Tubi. Like, I watched it again on Tubi today, but they were both on Tubi, and I remember watching the first one. I was like, and when we get to that scene where he fights 10 Japanese fighters, I was like, oh my God. Like, the thing about this film is, like, not like you said, the cinematography is really good, a lot of great shots, but the choreography in this is top notch. It's so good. And I'm still, even now, like, I sit there and say to myself, because Neko was actually watching it with me this morning, how fast Donnie Yen is with some of those hits. Like, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, phenomenal. He is. He's, you've got Bruce Lee, then you had Jet Li, and now you've got Donnie Yen. Obviously, also in between, you've got Jackie Chan. So you've got a history of amazing martial arts. Kung Fu, and other forms of martial arts. But Donnie Yen right now is right up there. And a female martial artist who has went from basically being a female martial artist who's now become kind of mainstream, is kind of moving away, I think, a bit from that, is Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
She's now moving away from being like an action star to a mainstream Hollywood actress. Where Donnie Yen, he's always been in the background. People who are diverse in kung fu movies in this style and this kind of genre will know his name, and he's synonymous with the genre. But over the last few years, he's had the odd film that's kind of crossed over. So he had Flashpoint, and then of course the Ip Man series, I think's now got a cult following, not just because if you're an action fan, they just know him and his work through these particular films. And then of course he kind of had another massive break with appearing in the last John Wick movie, John Wick Chapter 4, which apparently, because of his success in that movie, it's apparently getting its own spin-off.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So even like with Jet Li, so I remember because we did that Lethal Weapon franchise, what you did.
Yeah.
Talking about how at that time when I saw Lethal Weapon 4 and Jet Li was in that, I thought at that point Jet Li was brand new. Like I did not know he had been around in the industry for a while. Jackie Chan, the same thing. When I saw Rumble in the Bronx, I'm like, oh, we got a new guy here. But no, he's been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
But Donnie's the same thing. Donnie was in films that I remember seeing there. I'm trying to get the title right because it was probably, I don't know, probably early 2000s, called Dragon Tiger Gate or something, or Dragon Gate. And he looks a lot different in that film, obviously, a little bit younger, but it's the same thing. You just said it. Like, so Donnie's been in this genre and industry for a while, but it's just now as he's getting older that he's getting recognized in mainstream with like John Wick 4. And then of course he has a great role in Rogue One. So it's like, I'm like, dude, this guy deserves more work. Because we're seeing Tony Jaa kind of go through the same thing. Tony Jaa,
Tony Jaa is another one,
Now, the only younger ones that we've seen that are kind of like actually making an impact right away is like Joe Taslim and Iko Iwao. So that's nice. I'm glad that they're paying attention to that stuff. But yeah, it's crazy because like Donnie's been around for a while, and I'm just like, I'm hoping that spinoff happens for the John Wick franchise. I really do, because I think it'd be nice to expand that world. They already did it with Anna. Ballerina, so I'm hoping they continue to do that.
And I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that he's going to be, whether it's rumor or true, I heard he's going to be the executive producer of the John Wick spin-off. So I think if he's got any say in how that film goes, if it is getting greenlit and going to get off the ground, I'm hoping, because if he is the executive producer, you're not going to be disappointed whatever he comes up with action-wise.
No. I think at this stage, when it comes to a lot of these, Asian actors and martial artists, that like it's very imperative that you give them a say in what happens, because they're the ones that are the experts in those fields. And so I know that even Keanu Reeves respects Japanese culture and martial arts culture. So he certainly loves guys like, Sonata and, Donnie Yen and all them. So it's good that they give them the respect to kind of like, okay, yeah, we're going to give you a spinoff. You're going to have a lot of say in what you want to do with choreography and the fight scenes and stuff. Yeah. So,
well, it's not just that though. If you look at Hollywood as a whole, whenever, it doesn't matter if it's a Marvel movie, it doesn't matter if it's a Die Hard movie, whatever the action movie is, you always tend, when you get a stunt coordinator or a fight coordinator, you always have like a Korean stunt coordinator, or you have somebody who's a martial artist in that world, because it's their world, it's their background, it's their bread and butter. So it's nice to see, hopefully, somebody that's is an action star, but is a stunt coordinator, a writer, producer, whatever, is given full reign of a film project where you can give these all to.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Ip Man. This is like probably, even though I'd seen Donnie prior, not really knowing who he was at the time when I was watching random martial arts film. But this is the one where I like immediately I was like, wow, because I knew who Ip Man was due to his
Mhm.
legacy as Bruce Lee's teacher and stuff. But watching Donnie Yen kind of bring that character to life, and then like you said, this is a biographical, so that a lot of the stuff, the story is based upon real life events for Ip Man and what he had to go through during the time of his life. So, Ip Man is a 2008 Hong Kong biographical martial arts film based on the life of Ip Man, a grandmaster of martial art, Wing Chun, and teacher of martial arts legend Bruce Lee. So basically, this film starts out obviously, Ip Man actually is married, has a young son. They're doing pretty well. They have a nice house. It's actually very nice. I don't remember if they ever explained how he got his money initially, but they're doing well. You know, the wife takes care of the kid, and basically, kids more into art and stuff like that, and learning and education. Whereas, Ip Man, he's obviously a grandmaster of martial arts, but he doesn't really teach anything at this point. He's more laid back. But in this town they're in, there's a section of the town which is the martial arts quarter, and you've got different grandmasters there with their students, and so they're all kind of like they're friends, but yet they're all kind of competing in some way, whoever's like the best. And so we have one particular who's actually one of the better ones, and I'm trying to remember his uh, Master Lou,
Yeah.
and very nice guy. But and this is the thing I was telling Neko when we were watching, because you know how Master Lou shows up and he's like, "Hey, I want to just fight you privately to kind of see who's the better
Mhm.
fighter." And Ip Man's like, "Well, I'm eating currently," so like he invites him to eat. And I'm
Yes.
like, I always loved how like in the culture of martial arts, how polite they are. Like even in some of the older films, like when you watch them do the duels, they're like, they're all greeting each other, and then they get
Yeah.
into the battles.
It's
And
the thing with Korean and the East culture is it's all about respect and being respectful for one another. It's all about manners and nothing like like if I bumped into some random dude on the street, fuck you, motherfucker, you just bumped into us. Where if I bumped into Ip Man, it would be a case of just nodding your head and bowing and going, sorry about that, I accept your apology, and that would be the end of it.
yeah,
Be no one getting the street brawl. There'll be no one getting arrested. It would, complete. And I suppose that in many ways that is the difference between the West and the East. But
well,
the
that's what I
one,
always loved, is that they and it doesn't matter what culture, if it's Chinese, Japanese, Korean, or whatever, is like there's just this like huge sense of honor. So even when you were talking about the Akira stuff, the Kurosawa, because it's all based on samurai stuff,
yes,
there's a lot of like honor in there, like with fighting.
yeah,
Like again, even I'll go to Hidden Fortress, I think it was, and so you got your main guy fighting this other guy, and so they're
hmm,
doing a spear duel. And again, there's like this amount of respect that they do before they even engage in the fight. And so
hmm.
I can really appreciate that. Like I don't think modern civilization can really appreciate how that's done. You know what I mean?
I think it's a dying out, or it's literally just dying in society, in general,
Yeah.
which is a shame.
Hmm. But yeah, so Master Lu, he's there to challenge Ip Man to a duel, and so they eat, and then they, there's kind of this funny thing. The wife was always kind of like upset or like annoyed that Ip Man's always getting in these duels, because she's like, she's just tired of the fighting, really, but she loves her husband very much and the kid. But so he fights Master Lu, but there's this young man, Yuan, who is getting this kite from a tree, and he looks inside the window where they're fighting, and he sees that Master Lu gets beaten pretty easily. And I was telling Nick, I was like, one thing I do appreciate about this film, like, I don't know how historically accurate it is in terms of the fighting itself, but the one thing I've always loved about these films, especially the early ones, is that Ip Man is unstoppable. Like you can't really get a hit on him, and it's
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of stuff. I just love that
Mm-hmm.
when you have like bad guys or guys that are too
Mm-hmm.
arrogant or whatever, and they try to fight some of these better fighters, and the fighter's like, you can't beat me. You're not even going to touch me.
Yeah,
So I
and
kind of like that about
and
this.
he's like you mentioned, he's not somebody that brags about he's unstoppable. He's very at peace with who he is. He's disciplined in his art
Humble.
form,
Yep.
and he's disciplined in his mind and he's kind of he's what's it his characteristics. So he
Mhm.
doesn't need to put on a performance or brag or act out of character to show off, his skills. He's very much at peace in comfort with who he is, and he knows deep down he probably does know he's like the baddest martial artist on the block, but
Yeah.
that's, yes, he's trained in that. It's part of who he is, but it's not his whole life. He's very much a family man that
Mhm.
lives his life. The one thing I would like to know is you never see him work. You never see his wife go, how the fuck did they afford that big house?
That's the thing. Like it's never addressed. I mean, obviously, after the war starts with the Japanese, like you see some of the trials they go through. But at the time of this, early on, it's like they've got some wealth. They don't really flaunt it. They just kind of live
Mm-hmm.
nicely. But yeah, they never really explain how he actually got that to begin with. I don't know if it's like a family thing, inheritance, or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, so yeah, he defeats Master Lu, and of course Juan, who's like this young kid, is bragging, say, "Oh yeah, Master Lu got his ass kicked," and
Yeah,
that's the last thing that Master Lu wants. Master Lu's like, "Yeah, you don't say
yeah,
anything about this," because they're
yeah,
trying to get students. They're trying to
yeah.
make sure that they're teaching
And
and
it's all about respect and honor. And so, because you've got some punk kid who's climbed the side of, It Man's house, and he's there to, retrieve his kite that's in the tree, and he sees this battle go on. He goes down, goes and tells his brother in the middle of this crowded restaurant, and embarrasses the other master martial
yeah,
artist. So because he's done that, he's now dishonored him in many ways. So, but the one thing, if you notice, when he finds out, he doesn't go straight to Ip Man and go, "How dare you brag about me? How dare you, break our trust?" He goes straight for the guy who is spreading
Juan,
this
yeah,
about, you
yeah,
know. And then even right at the end, when Ip Man's in the restaurant, where he's having a meal back behind, like in a private room, and it's all kicking off. Even when he comes out, he doesn't even acknowledge that it's a lie or a truth.
right,
He still keeps it to himself out of respect for the other master. And I
hmm
think that if you see the course of the movie, that shows, because the one thing we haven't mentioned is that, yes, it's based in fact. In the first, I guess, quarter of this movie, it's very much, it's not heavy. It's very much, yes, it's action filled with the martial art testing and these people that come to the town, but it's very much contained in the town, and it's very much light-hearted in many ways. And then once you get past the Japanese invading China, it then takes a very dark and gritty and
yeah,
heavier tone.
yep,
So this basically sets up the relationship between characters.
hmm
Like, so you know what I mean? Like, for Ip Man and this Master Lu, there's a bond there, there's respect there, there's honor there, and there's this, because this guy's told a lie, or he hasn't told a lie, he's
or
told
he
the truth.
just told it out. He wasn't supposed to say
Yeah,
anything.
and him and his brother have a fallout, which there's a
Yeah,
bond broken there. And then the next part, which we'll get into, happens. But then once you get past that part, it gets much darker, grittier, heavier, and it really sets the tone of the rest of the movie.
yeah, and that's the thing that I like about Ip Man throughout a lot of this is even when we get into the second one with a guy named Jen Shanzao, who's a great fighter, but a lot of it's out of strength. And, he comes in and he starts beating up on the masters in the quarter because he's
Mm-hmm.
just using sheer power to defeat these masters. But Ip Man, one thing I really love that you keep mentioning is that he's so humble and scaled back that a lot of times, like when Shin tells him he's there to fight, he's like, I want to start up a school and I want to be like, the best one or whatever. And Ip Man's like, well, you don't need to fight me to start a school. That's basically what he's saying. It's like, and that's the humbleness of Ip Man. He's like, look, he tries to teach a lot of these grandmasters, the idea that like you can teach your students whatever you want. You don't need to fight me to prove your worth, and you don't have to like, be scared of me either. I'm not here to dethrone you or anything. Like Ip Man pretty much keeps to himself. But he has the reputation of being just a very good, grandmaster of martial arts. And so this Jin Shinzao shows up from the northern Chinese martial arts. Again, very strong.
It makes me laugh because he's like, I don't know why. Like, so he's like the total opposite of Ip Man. Ip Man keeps himself to himself. He doesn't brag that he's a martial artist. Then you've got this younger martial art master who comes in and basically he's there. It reminds me, this sounds weird. It's like Cobra Kai.
Yes.
It's like you've got Midagi-Go and then you've got Cobra Kai. So you've got Chris, who's all about aggression, throws it in your face. Then you've got Mr. Miyagi, who's all peaceful and keeps it to himself. Yeah. So you've got Ip Man on one side, you've got this guy on the other, and he's going round, the other guy's going round, and he's beating all the other masters. And then they all say, well, you can't beat Ip Man. He's the number one martial artist. So instead of like waiting until he comes into town on his day, on a day of errand, doing errands or something, he just barges into his gate, into his house. He pisses his wife off. And then they end up brawling in the house. And it's hilarious. Every time they break a glass vase or something, I'll pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like the way that starts out, like, the wife stands up and says, you're not going to fight here. Like, this is not going to happen. And of course, Jen is like taunting Ip Man's like, oh, are you female fighting? Like your wife tells you what to do. But there comes a point where like you just see it in her face, like, don't you break anything. Like she's like, she wants him to go beat his ass. Like she's at that point, she's like, just don't break anything. Like, and she walks away. Mm-hmm. And then of course the kid comes up on his bike, is like, Mom says if you keep fighting, we're not going to have anything left. So that goes to that point you said where Jen, when he breaks like a couple of vases, like, I'll pay, because like, he's going to cover the costs.
Yeah, but even then, it shows you there's this kind of underlying respect.
Yeah.
He wants to kick his ass to prove he's the better martial artist.
Yep.
And so he's left with, because it's not really explained where he came from either. They've come from a far town to come to, I think it was Shaw's Zen or something to come to, and he's there. He wants to basically prove that he's a martial artist, so he can build his own school, build his reputation, get people behind him, and people go, oh, guess what? He beat all the other martial artists, including Ip Man. You've got to go to his school for the best martial artist training.
Yeah.
That's basically what he's doing. He's basically selling himself as a martial artist. So that's basically what he does, yeah. And then he goes to the house and challenges Ip Man. But at the same time, like you say, there's this mutual respect in many ways. Yes, he's more the aggressive of the two. Yep. But there's still that underlying like respect. So every time you broke a vase or smashed a table, I've got it. I'll pay for it. Let's keep fighting. Yeah. Tell your wife not to worry. It's paid for.
And I love because obviously when they begin fighting, Ip Man is very defensive at first. Like he uses a lot of defensive maneuvers, something that he taught Bruce Lee a lot. Mm-hmm. But when he starts kind of like putting some offensive in there, stuff in there, Jen like pulls his sword, and the way they do that shot is so amazing because like you don't really expect it, but he just pops it out, and he tries to like go after Ip Man at that point, and Ip Man of course takes like a little feather duster or something. He starts smacking him around the face and the ass, kind of like teach him like a little kid, like quit breaking my shit.
Yeah, yeah, that was amazing because he actually grabbed a sword or something, and he's
Yeah.
now, oh, was it an axe? And he's starting to swing it around.
It's a sword, but it's like one of those like thick swords. So it's like a broadsword almost.
Yeah, and so every time you swing at him, he's got, like, you see the feather duster, which then he turns around, and now the feather bit's at the back, and he's using it like a bamboo cane, and he's like,
Yeah.
boom, 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 and then the other one's getting whiplashed on the ass, on the legs, back of the legs, on his face, and he's like, shit.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about this film, because when Jin shows up, and then later on when we see General Mayu, uh, they don't realize just how good he is until they're actually fighting him. Like once Ip Man starts getting the better of him, they just have this like shock and angry look on their faces, like they can't believe they're getting beat and getting beat easily. That's what's fun about it. But yeah, so Jin, he ends up losing to Ip Man, and this is a big deal because the entire town at this point are embarrassed that all their grandmasters lost to this northern fighter. But once Ip Man defeats him easily, there's like this big, like, yeah, thank you for saving our reputation, and they start giving the family a lot of gifts at the market.
We've missed out an important character, which we've never talked about, which now that I'm thinking about it, we need to mention, because he is an important character coming on later in the plot. You've got the police officer. So basically, originally when the first, fight happened, he's in the restaurant when it gets leaked by the guy that obviously Ip Man beat the other Grandmaster. The police officer walks in and he's like, what's going on here? And then he says to them, listen, we are the heroes, we are the police officers, these are just martial artists. So that happens then, and he's like against them. And then when this northerner comes in and challenges, he turns up and he's like, listen, and he's acting very like in between, but it's kind of how his character is, where he says one thing on the surface, but then he thinks something else underneath. So what ends up happening is when the northerners like causing riots or causing a commotion, he's all against them. But then when he insults the town and insults like everybody, he looks at Ip Man, he goes, listen, you, no more fighting. Don't do this here. And then when he's inside, when he goes to shut the door, he goes, you've got to beat him.
Yep.
You've got to beat them to show, to represent the community, the city, the town. You've got to do this for us as a community. So he's saying things on the surface, but then he's literally saying something behind. And that plays out the rest of the plot where, as we know, when he's no longer a police officer, when the Japanese invade, he then becomes the interpreter for the Japanese. And he's looking at the Japanese and he's like saying things to them like, oh, of course, I'll make sure he does this. But then he then talks in Chinese and he's like, listen, don't do this because you're going to get killed. He's like, he's saying things one way.
It's something that we see with a few characters. So obviously the policeman starts out kind of combative with Ip Man, but after a while, Ip Man gains the respect of the cop. And then even Jin, who fights him, the young northerner, Ip Man too, we see Jin again, who actually is a big friend of Ip Man in that film. So I love how Ip Man's able to gain respect and trust through even some of the people that were initially against him in some way. So I really like that about Ip Man a lot. So as you said, the cop becomes a focal point throughout the film because at first he's kind of in charge and trying to show off. It's like it's all about guns, and Ip Man like knocks the middle of the bullets out of the gun, showing him that you really don't have any power here. But then later on, and then we'll start talking about the Japanese who come in and they're decimating the town and the country. They're in control. It's been very hard on Ip Man and his family. His wife was dying at one point. He had to kind of nurse her back to health. And like you said, it turns very dark. It gets it's very sad, and this is the cool thing too, is that we start going from very colorful, vibrant colors to almost like dark
Yeah,
grays throughout the
yeah,
film.
dark grey, black, and virtually nearly black and white in some areas. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, it's a color. It's a film that is, it's not a black and white movie, but I think they did. I think the cinematography and the color blending during this point was brilliant. So basically, the first half of the film is like a showcase of honor, respect within the world of this town in China, and the characters are building personalities and reputations and relationships. Then the second part of the movie is virtually where that gets basically knocked down to nothing.
yeah,
And you basically all of the within the communities, there's still that self, respect and honor within the community, even though they're going through tough times. There's people being killed, there's people starving, they're begging for food. They've got to work in these horrendous conditions to get just a pack of rice that will last them through to the night and stuff like that. But there's still respect and honor, and there's that among the Chinese within the course of the movie. And then obviously you see the Japanese and what goes on, but then you also see the ones who are desperate. So the police officer who I mentioned, who becomes a vocal point later on, he was an honorable police officer. Yes, he was a bit arrogant. Yes, he was showing off a bit and look, I'm a police officer, I'm the law and all that. But the second half of the movie, he is basically working with the Japanese, and he's doing it out of fear and is an
yes,
interpreter and out of
yep,
desperation, and he's trying to
hmm,
act big and tough with his fellow Chinamen who are now like basically like slave labor.
yeah. They're
But
doing
deep
like
down,
mining or something. Yeah,
but deep down underneath that, him acting like he did before, like, oh, I'm all right, look at me. Underneath it all, he is terrified as well.
yeah, yeah, and that's kind of the thing too, right? So it's like, and we do see a change in him throughout the end of the film because he's kind of brash a little bit because he is the interpreter, so he feels like he's got this important role with the Japanese. He's basically out of fear, as you said. He's using that to be like, okay, I'm going to help my own people, but I'm going to be the important guy to do
Mhm.
this. And
Yeah.
so, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel it's like you thought, well, because I've positioned myself as an interpreter with the Japanese, no harm will come to me or my family.
Right.
In my own way, I'm going to try and protect me Japanese, sorry, me fellow Chinamen. But then obviously underneath it all, he's basically saying the torture that goes on in that room when, the
Yeah.
general's asking people to fight and then there's people getting shot or killed. He's seeing the dark side of it, but then he's kind of closing his mind off to it because he doesn't want to believe it's happening. But then obviously once It Man gets involved,
Yeah.
he then realizes, it comes to light and he like starts to act upon it.
Yeah, that's the thing. So obviously with them, because that man has to actually try to get work in order to help, keep the family afloat and with food, with rice and all that. Uh, so yeah, so what the Japanese did with General Mio is like holding these tournaments. And and again, this is some credit. Again, we talked about the honor aspect. The general is very much about honor. So like he feels like he's the Japanese fighting is the best ever. That's something that's common throughout Japanese history with how they approached martial arts and stuff, that they felt like their version was always the higher end of it. And we saw that with some of the Bruce Lee films and stuff like that. But so yeah, so they're in charge basically running the town, and they're in charge there with the tournaments. And so what General does is he's got his young fighting students, and what they're doing is fighting Chinamen for bags of rice, and but he will still give them rice if they lose. It's just a matter of kind of embarrassing them or showing how powerful they are as fighters. I hate his right hand man, that guy with the glasses, Sato. I hate that guy so bad.
Yeah, well, he is literally like a Nazi.
Oh,
Like
oh God, yeah, he's terrible.
100%. Like he doesn't give a shit. He's like one of these. He just wants to torture and maim the Chinese for.
And that
for
sort of leads to the whole like Ip Man getting involved. Ip Man really didn't care about fighting. Like he just wanted to go about working, try to get what he could for his wife, like potatoes and stuff like that. But
mm,
when we see Master Lu, who constantly fights and actually wins a lot of his
mhm.
matches, he actually
Yeah,
decides, well,
yeah.
let
But
me
don't
fight three because he
yeah,
wants more
yeah.
rice. And
But
that's when
don't forget,
Fuckface shoots him.
yeah. He shoots him, and it's. But the reason the reason Ip Man gets involved, like you say, he keeps himself to himself. And what ends up happening is the guy, as you know, you've got the two of us. Was mentioned at the beginning of this. There was another kind of story building where you had the guy who's, Master Liu, who fights Ip Man in his privacy of his own home. There's a younger brother that stands up in a tree and collects his kite and so
Yep.
witnesses it. So that happened at the beginning. So after that happened, he spread that around the town. And his older brother is like, you shouldn't be spreading rumors or telling, things if it's basically not your business to tell. And the two brothers have a major falling out. Well, as you see throughout the course of the movie, the older brother basically is a friend of Ip Man. And
Yep.
when the Japanese invaded, they both got a job working to, is in the coal, the sweep up coal and, speed up the coal
Yeah.
and to mine the coal in the back of the wagons and stuff. Then all of a sudden what happens is it's the first line of when we're first introduced to the Japanese general. You've got Master Lee, and then you've got Master Liu, and then the older brother's there, and then what happens is Master Lee beats them all, and then all of a sudden the older brother decides to challenge the general, and he beats him, but he fights him. But then instead of after getting beaten walking away, he decides to fight him again, and he basically beat him to death.
Yeah, that's where unfortunately, the pride of the older brother gets the best of him because the other two guys with him are like, let's just call it a day. We got beat. But the older brother with the pride, it's not ego, it's just pride. He's angry what's happening in his country. He's angry about what the Japanese are doing. So he attacks the general, and the general just ends up. Even the general's like, "Do you really want to die?" And again, pride just gets the best of him at that point.
And that's what led to Master P when he went back to the main to get, to sweep up the rest of the coal, and he wasn't there, the older brother, and he was concerned and found his box. He's bloody dropped the day before, which he didn't know what was in the box. And he goes to look for him, and he goes into the, wherever the general's compound. And as you can see in the footage, he then realizes, what's happened to him. He's been beaten to death, but then he also sees the death of Master Lee. And as you can see, he loses his shit in his own way and kicks the shit out of 10 men. But if you notice the one thing in this clip, throughout it all,
doesn't kill anybody.
He doesn't kill it. Not just that. He does not just kill anybody. Look at the performance and look at Ip Man. He doesn't scream. He doesn't shout. He doesn't lose his cool. He's calm, cool, and collected because he's mastered his emotions.
Yep.
He's
Exactly.
mastered not to allow his emotions to control his actions.
Yep.
And throughout the course of that fight and the end fight, he does not once scream, shout, go ballistic. And that was the key of who he is.
And it's always interesting because obviously Bruce was a little bit more loud and flamboyant. He was a little bit arrogant, but that he was really good too. But one thing that Rick Myers always said, that because he knows Jackie Jan pretty well, he said that Bruce told Jackie, like, don't try to be somebody else, do your own thing. And so Jackie went to create his own style, his own type of films, mix it in comedy a little bit. And I think Bruce, in a lot of ways, despite everything that Ip taught him, did the same thing. Bruce said, "Well, I got a lot of this great teaching from it, but I'm going to be my own guy. I'm going to do it how I want to do it." And so, obviously, he created
Yeah,
Jeet Kune Do and stuff like that.
yeah,
But
yeah. But it's like any form of martial art. Sorry, it's like a lot of people when they decide, right, I am going to learn any kind of martial arts, whether it's kung fu, whatever. It's generally a lot of people don't just go to study martial art because of self-defense. It's also about inner self-discipline. So they learn how to control the emotions. Like there's a lot of people that probably go and do this kind of training because they might have anger issues, they might have issues from the past, and it's their way to express that and to control it. And it's very therapeutic as well as, exercising and training.
mhm.
And the one thing I've noticed when it comes to Ip Man with throughout the course of these movies, and obviously it's based on a real person, it's based on real events. Yes, we've mentioned it's like exaggerated in many ways, but obviously this is a person that was very disciplined, very well versed, knew how to control his emotions, and to this day, his training and his martial arts is still trained to this day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, even when there's this moment where, uh, he fights those 10 men, but he never comes back. He took his revenge basically in the nicest way possible. Doesn't come back. But then they come looking for him because the general wants him to teach his guys, which is so funny to me. But the general's like, "Yeah, I need you to find Ip Man because he's like misses that kind of fighting. Like he really appreciates what Ip Man can do." So again, Sato and a couple others go to find him through the interpreter, which was the former cop. And the Sato decides he sees the wife, and he's like, you already know what's going through his mind. And I love the Ip Man's like, no, and he just starts beating the cops, the Japanese soldiers up. He's like, that's not going to happen. And it's in a calm manner, like you said. He keeps his calm, but dude, the brutality. He's like, you will not be touching my wife, like ever. Yeah, he just beats the shit out of these
There's
guys.
even the fear of her at the top of the staircase. So
Yeah,
obviously, the first scene you see is the son walking backwards from the entrance when he's going bang 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 bang, and
yeah,
then you finally see Sato going bang bang, and he's got the gun in his hand aimed at his son. Now,
yeah.
if you had a son with a man aiming a gun at your son, you would lose your shit, and
Oh God, yeah.
you know. But he doesn't because he's like, well, if I do lose my shit, he might actually pull the trigger.
Correct.
And then, of course, you see the wife at the top of the staircase who walks out and she sees her son with a gun in his face. You can see the fear in her eyes, but then obviously he noticing, oh, what a pretty lady, or whatever he says. And then
Yeah.
obviously her eyes change because she's like, well, I know what he's implying.
Yep.
The audience watching knows what he's implying.
Yeah,
And
and
it,
that's the
man,
thing. Like you sit there when you see that happen, you're just as a viewer, you're just dreading. Like, please don't let that happen. Like, please don't let that happen. Of course, if man doesn't let it happen, he already knows that
mhm,
if he doesn't take a stand here, that his wife could be in very big danger, and so
yes, he protects his wife, his family. He does what a man's
yeah.
meant to do, but he
But he
doesn't.
also knows at that point too, because and this is where we see kind of the growth and change of the interpreter, the cop, because the cop, starts out like, I'm going to protect myself, but I'm going to sort of use my Chinese fellow men to handle the Japanese and what they want. But after he gets treated very badly by the Japanese, he gets really mad. And so he now is like, okay, well, man, just beat these guys up. I got to get you to safety and hidden because they will come looking for you for doing
Mhm.
this. And so we do see this change with the interpreter, which is really nice because he's now going to try to look after Ip Man and his family. While, as you said, playing sort of a double agent. He's telling the Japanese, I don't know where he is, yada, yada, yada. But then, of course, the Japanese are smart. They decide they're going to try to threaten the other people around them to say, if you can't bring Ip Man to us, you're all going to die, basically. And so Ip Man comes and turns himself in. And this is where initially the general wants him to teach the Japanese his fighting, but Ip Man's like, I'll never do that. And I said, but I'll fight him. And that's where the interpreter is like, yeah, he says he'll think about it, but he wants to duel you. And of course, the Japanese are arrogant. So General Mio is like an honorable guy, but he's like, that Sato's like, why don't you just shoot him? He's like, no, that's not how we operate. If I do that, it means I was scared to fight him. And so General Mew is very confident that he can beat Ip Man, even though we all know he's not going to. But
yeah. And the last fight, you had all the crowd, but the fight isn't that long. It literally ends after a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So Ip Man just basically goes to town. And then boom, 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 and beats it. But the entire crowd of everybody that was seen from the beginning of the movie, all the people from the town, the village, are watching, and then you've got the Japanese like with the guns protecting the general, and Sato's just eager to shoot somebody. And of course, this is where we get to the end of the movie where the whole crowd is just lit up that Ip Man defeats him. But then there's that one moment where you think, it's gonna have a complete happy ending, when boom, Ip Man gets shot through, he gets shot through the shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, we know the history of Ip Man. We know it's a biological, biography kind of movie.
Yeah.
So we know he didn't die there and then, but he falls to the floor and the crowd basically overthrow all the Japanese to get to him.
Well, yeah, because that's sort of the whole thing, right? It's very telling that, again, Sato, and the interpreter actually ends up killing Sato with his own gun, but it's sort of the implication that, the Japanese, especially with Sato, is like whenever they're losing a battle in a fight where honor is at stake, Sato takes the easy way out by just killing them with a gun. It's like, that's cowardly. That's sort of like why the people that start pushing back on the Japanese in that crowd, because they're like, dude, your general just fought a fair fight with Ip Man and lost, and now you're trying to kill this man because he beat your guy. It's so cheesy. And so, but I love that, that's sort of like the inspiration that the people in that town needed to kind of push back against the Japanese.
Yeah.
And it's a great moment,
Yeah, it's a brilliant moment, a brilliant movie. The only thing I will say, the pacing of the movie from beginning to end, it had a steady pace. Then I felt like the last half, not the last half, but the last few minutes felt very quick.
Yeah.
Like the general, you're introduced to the general, and he does fight a couple of the Chinese because he wants to prove how strong he is, and he beats the shit out of him. He looks like a fierce competitor. But then you don't ever see him fight again. But then you have the fight with Ip Man against 10 Japanese. And then you assume when you're going to have that final battle, and you've seen how good the general is fighting, that when it's him and Ip Man, you're going to think, oh, well, actually, Ip Man, in your mind, you think, yes, Ip Man's probably going to win because you know the history of the character, of the person. But then you also think you want to see a fight where he potentially looks like he's going to lose, you make it fair. But Ip Man just went to town on him.
And I kind of like that, because to me, at least the way it symbolized was at that point, Ip Man, because Ip Man was kind of frustrated. He's like, this guy, even if he feels like he's doing this fight in honor, is really kind of a cheesy guy. He's killed a lot of my countrymen, and I'm just at a point now where he's already beat a bunch of Japanese in that tournament, and then all the other shit he's had to deal with over his life. So this is a moment where he's just like, again, you said it, he's very calm, but he just methodically takes out this general, like just, and he could have killed him. He could have did it. He could have killed him at the end, and he
Yeah,
doesn't.
yeah,
So
yeah.
again, he is so well disciplined that he doesn't allow his anger to get the better of him. And
Yes.
so I really appreciate that about Ip Man's teachings. And again, unfortunately, my wife, when she was sailing, was in Hong Kong. She had a chance to go visit the grave, but because she couldn't get anybody to go with her at the time that was on the ship, I told her not to venture out because I just don't know what the streets are like out there. But had
Yeah.
I been out there with her, I would have definitely gone to visit his grave and pay
Oh,
respect.
definitely. Yeah, oh, I would have done.
Yep. So, what are your final thoughts on Ip Man 2008, and what is your rating for the film?
So, very simply, a very enjoyable movie. Yes, I've said it a few times. Yes, it's a biography movie, but it's also exaggerated. But it's not too exaggerated that you can't go, oh, come on, that is just totally over the top. It's not. It's bathed in history and it's bathed in real life history, and it's colourful, it's dark, but it's also very kind of humbleizing in who the man was, and because of that, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because I love this. And like we were talking off screen before I jumped on. I watched the first one, forgot how good it was. Watched the second one, forgot how much I liked the second one. Ended up watching the third one, then looked at me watch and went, "Shit, I've got to be somewhere."
Yeah, I mean, you get involved. Like even Neko was watching it pretty closely the entire time this morning. So, again, yeah, I agree with everything you said. Great choreography. I love that whole transition from the first half with all the vibrant colors and everything
Mhm.
going on. It turns very dark and very gray.
Yeah,
Um, the characters have arcs. All of them have like arcs that they have in there, and yeah, I think, and you said it too. Like, I've seen like the first four. I think I don't know if I've seen five yet or if it's out yet, but I know they're still working.
the fifth. He did announce. I think because his two most popular films that actually transcended him across to like mainstream in many ways is Flashpoint
Yeah,
and the Ip Man series. Like I said to you before, the Ip Man series, whether you're mainstream action guy who loves his action movies and knows all the big ones, like the big, franchise. Ip Man's one of them. Anybody who's into martial arts or anybody who's into action movies, if you mention Ip Man, they know who it is.
yeah,
They know who the person is, but they also know the movies and they know who stars in them, which is Donnie Yen.
yeah.
So this series, if not Flashpoint, is the one that transcended him into mainstream. Like it's the same with Jackie Chan. Like if everyone knows him for Rush Hour,
As
but
Rumble
at this,
Brox.
yeah, Rumble in the Bronx or the Police Story movies,
Yep.
they're the ones that he's known for.
Yep.
So a great film series. I can watch these over and over. Highly recommend them.
Same. 10 out of 10. Definitely agree. Thank you for joining me. Could you let people know what you got coming up on your channel so they are aware?
So is it tomorrow or Tuesday? I kind of forget. Have I forgotten?
Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday, yes. You and me will be meeting up again to do the cinematic synergy, and we're going to do 47 Ronin, which is my pick for our amazing film series that we'll do. And then on Friday, we will be going into the darkness with the Hills Have Eyes film franchise. And I believe the last, and maybe the last Sunday of the month, we are going to be doing my next Kaiju Connections classic Kaiju film series. And we're going to be talking about the Magic Serpent.
Awesome. As for me, obviously, cinematic on Tuesday. Wednesday, we'll be doing my Ghouls of Midnight pick, which will be Divinity from 2023. Coming up on Saturday for Silver Screen Savants on Olvin's channel, we'll be covering Halloween, John Carpenter's original Halloween. And I might fill some things in between that. I'm not sure yet. But again, thank you, sir, for joining me today. It's been a blast, as always. I appreciate you as a friend and as a collaborator. And for those that have seen this, let us know in the comments how you feel about this particular film. You agree, disagree on things, or how do you like the franchise? I think the franchise is great so far. So we'll have to cover some more of these down the road. But again, thank you very much. Subscribe to the Entertainment Headquarters, please. And like and subscribe if you enjoyed this channel. And we will see you next time on the Military Radio Podcast.
Subscribe to him, boys and girls. He's amazing.